I'm making a physicsy first-person shooter game, and I needed a system to pick up and move objects and have them be physically simulated in the world, but still have the player have a lot of control. And it seemed like physics constraints were going to be the way to do that in Unreal. Looking around here, all of this, my ADS, my hip fire, my recoil, none of this is animated. This is all physics simulating in real time, which is pretty sweet. When the player interacts with other objects in the world, you can see their gun will hit those and bump off of other surfaces, and technically anything that they hold could be used to like move some other physics items around, which in this case, you know, a gun moving a couple boxes, not that useful, but I'm sure you can use your imagination to come up with some other scenarios that this might be pretty useful for. I wanted this component to be a nice little self-contained handler for any kind of physics grabbing. The way that the handle uses the physics constraint is essentially every tick while you're holding something, it will adjust the position and rotation that the gun or the thing you're holding needs to be in. So in this case, the gun, I'm holding it at the handle, and every time I move, it will then tick and update the position the gun needs to be at. Part of the problem is that no matter what I did, and no matter what I had my physics constraint set to, I would get this issue, which is all this judder and like gun glitchiness when strafing and hitting the linear limits of the gun. For the most part, the angular rotation stuff feels really smooth and never really seemed affected by anything. But this was pretty unpalatable and unplayable to me. This was like a non-starter for this idea to work. You know, everything else still works, but as a player, if I'm playing and I see this is what my gun is doing, I'm gonna freak out. You know, like I'm not gonna be happy trying to shoot another player and having my gun having a seizure. Because this is functioning on tick, the very first thing I had tried to get rid of this was simply taking my component and putting it in pre-physics. I'm trying to update the position that a physics item needs to move to every single tick, and so it should happen before the tick that it needs to move, so that immediately after, you know, a player rotates their camera, the position that the gun needs to be in will now move, and then during the physics tick, the gun will attempt to move there using the constraints. And for whatever reason, even though on my component, in my blueprint, I tried this in C++, no matter what I did, setting that to pre-physics, my component, my player, both of those operating in pre-physics ticks, I could not get this stutter to go away. Maybe this is my fault for not reading the docs sooner, but I think as most people who use Unreal know, it's pretty hard to just assume that you're going to find anything in the docs, let alone the actual thing you're looking for. But in this case, the docs saved my life. I'd been pulling my hair out for like 3 or 4 days trying to get this done. And the solution to that is on the component itself that does the grabbing and updates its position. In its begin play, I make the owner of it a tick prerequisite actor. So for some reason, this component that I had made would just never tick pre-physics. It took a really long time to figure out that that was what the problem was and not like how I was setting positions and rotations. But in my begin play now on the component, I add the actor as a prerequisite actor. And that just means the tick of this component will not do anything until the actor also ticks. And they're both set to tick pre-physics. So that basically just more or less tied them together. And now, as you can see, I have this buttery smooth, no glitch, nothing, really nice ADS, move around. It hits all of its joint limits, still affected by physics. And good Lord, it had been so close for a couple days now. And I just thought, you know, someone else is probably going to get stuck on this shit eventually as well. So I might as well just make a little video. So if you're ending up stuck with physics, judder, or jitter on a component that is supposed to be updating a constraint or something every single frame, this is how I fixed it. I haven't really seen anyone else talking about the prerequisite actor stuff for ticks. but I have seen so many videos of people trying to use constraints and update them on tick or update them every frame, and that causing all kinds of weird jitter with the linear constraints. You can find plenty of posts of people talking about how the linear constraints aren't necessarily respected, and I think and believe that this is why most people are having this problem. The actual tick needs to happen pre-physics, and if that is on a component, I would add the actor that owns the component as a prerequisite actor for tick. And that's how I've gotten now constraints that can be updated in real time. So now you can see with a lot less force, rotational force holding the gun, I've got this really floppy, awkward looking interaction that's super affected by physics angularly, but the linear rotation or the linear movement is still pretty on top of it. So, you know, in my case, the way that I want to use a lot of this stuff is like a stamina system, that the more your character loses stamina, the weaker your steadied grip becomes. But all the shooting still works. This is quite funny. ADS, hip fire, all of it still works. No judder. You know, this is something that has been plaguing me for a few days, and just thought it was worth making a video about to kind of explain how I solve this problem. I'm also thinking about making this into a plugin or something, cleaning up a lot of the code and trying to make, you know, add a few more extensible features to see if maybe anyone would be interested in that. So if you feel like you could use a replicated physics grabbing component that you would just snap onto an actor, and now you can pick up any object, it'll automatically be replicated over the network, server validated, all of that, let me know, and I might try and put something up on the Epic store. Anyways, have a beautiful time.